I'd say, Maharaji, how can I know God? He'd say, feed people. I'd say, well, can't you give me some secrets? I mean, you're their living spirit, give me some real, I want some esoteric stuff. I want some secrets I can take it back and sell, And he says, feed people and serve people. Okay, well, that's not, you can't market it, it's just the way it is, all right? But then he did another thing. Every time I would get caught in something, I get caught in anger about somebody being adharmic, meaning doing something that isn't in the spirit, okay? Somebody rips somebody off or something like that, and I'd get angry. Maharaj, he would get so frustrated with me, and he'd say to me, don't you see it's all perfect? And here was the paradox, that all he was telling me to do was to recognize the perfection of it all, and at the same moment work full-time to relieve the suffering of it. And that literally is the paradox that a spiritual person lives in the world with. Okay? Which you could put it another way, that the higher consciousness is tuned to God, to the law, to the way of things, to the perfection of the unfolding of the living spirit in form. Because when I get angry at you, and I say, you shouldn't have done that, what I am saying, since I understand it's all God, I'm saying, God, like Job, I'm saying, God, if I had made this universe, I wouldn't have screwed up with this person, I would have, couldn't you, if we just corrected a bit, that person wouldn't cheat. See? Wouldn't it be a better world if you had done that? And I realized after a while that that's a little presumptuous. Because until you stand back far enough to understand why it all is, it's a little presumptuous to decide it's wrong. But to see that it's right, to accept that it's because it is all God, it is all perfect, it's all unfolding perfectly. And at the same moment, not to close your eyes, somebody comes along and it's like the levels, confusion of levels again. I used to teach yoga, hatha yoga, body yoga. And somebody says to me, Ramdas, I want to fast. And I say, well, you're a healthy person, it's great. Why don't you fast for 9 days? You can have some moo tea. And the person says, oh, yes, right. And Ramdas said to do that. And, you can tell him to do anything. It doesn't matter because it's all within the context. As long as they're doing it as a purification, they're doing what they're doing for their reasons. And you're merely an instrument. You're a tool in their game. They invest in you that thing of saying, Ramdas, what should I do? And then you say something, right? It's not going to matter if they stood on their left foot for 3 days. It would do the same thing as fasting for 9, okay? So it comes in after 7 days. I'm sure I'm stepping on many people's toes by doing that. The way it is. You'll be sorry you invited me. It's all Peter's fault. And I come back after, the person comes in at 7 days and says, I say, how are you doing? He says, I haven't eaten in 7 days. I say, great. Give a little ego feeding. You're doing wonderfully. Good work there. I see God's light and go back to it, And then you walk out on the street, like Hate Street, see, and somebody comes up and says, hey man, you got a quarter? I haven't eaten in 7 days. Good, you're doing fine. Now, now, there's a very profound message right in that, because suffering, there is a level at which suffering is grace. But because suffering is grace for me, it doesn't mean that I lay suffering on someone else and say, take it, it's grace. See? There's the fallacy. And the ability to see the perfection of the universe, including the suffering, that God didn't make a mistake. That's all perfect. And at the same moment, to do everything in your power to be an instrument of that which relieves suffering. Just because that's the part you play in the whole dance. Not because it's better or worse, you're just playing that part in the whole structure of the game. That's thy will. You surrender. Because once you are aware of these higher planes, you cannot do things which create more suffering. That's the way it is. Because if I have gone to a plane of consciousness where I look at you and I see that you and I are the same stuff, who am I going to steal from? That's like taking out of one pocket and putting it into another. Because I understand, which we call in Eastern parley karma, I understand that if I take something from you, I create paranoia in you and suffering in you, and that ultimately is my problem. Because we are sisters and brothers. We are part of the living corpus of the Spirit. And so every time I do something which is a separate act, which separates me from the situation, I merely make my liberation into the Spirit, and everyone else is that much harder. And that's what's called creating karma. You got words for it too, but that's that kind of word. Okay. Now, so you end up being a good guy, not because of righteousness. Not because I better be good because somebody's watching. Or I better be good or I'm going to feel guilty. But only a damn fool would be other than good. I mean, you'd have to be an idiot to do the things most people do. You understand what I'm saying? Because once you've seen this thing, I mean, you're just going directly in the face of your own experience. You're just making believe you never saw this thing. And well, a lot of the problems that many of us have is that we, in meditation or in prayer, we go into these incredibly high spaces and you look around the chapel and everybody's a brother and a sister and, oh God, we're all living life. And then you walk out and who took my hat? Like, immediately it's them again. See? And part of our predicament, when we talk about, I'm going all over the place, but it's got some coherence somewhere, I assume, in your mind maybe. You think I know what I'm doing, see? I don't, but it doesn't matter, because